So my working theory, they got everybody on the gang program. They all, everybody in the club getting tips, getting tips. Uh, I just, you walk into a grocery store, maybe one or two people there are like there, and then everybody else is in the gang. And you walk in this aisle, and at least this aisle, everybody in there is too fresh. Everybody in there is too like they got that aggressive Chick-fil-A energy, like that nanobot energy. That's just like Uh, but it's like so well orchestrated. Like as soon as you walk in, they got the first person there that's supposed to hit you in a trigger that's predetermined or something, or try to like you know open up your like rip open your aura or your chakras to where your energy's leaking, and then they have people in there that's like set to try to like clip something off you while you're thinking about that or you're feeling a way about what you just experienced, because there's no validation for it. It's just like goofy people that just like, duh, when you confront them. But everybody's playing that role that they're designed to play, and then it just occurred to me that it's like, all right, there's somebody wealthy that spent money on this whole thing to just stop. Like I'm done playing video games. I'm gonna play real games. I'm gonna put all these people in the sim, and I'm gonna give each of them commands, and they're gonna behave a specific way. And when I say so, they're gonna jump. Just like they showed me jumping, because when rich niggas, that was the sign right there. All these motherfuckers is jumping. So it's like whoever invested in my program, I'm sure there's like a website or some kind of black market thing where a motherfucker could pay to watch you. I heard Cat Williams say it in my head last night. You don't even know you're on TV. And that could sound crazy, but I'm really psychic out this bitch. Like a real Native American, and being on this land, I don't doubt any of my intuitions, and that's why I made it this far. Think about me leaving California before the shit popped off, where they could ghost any nigga with all that military presence and shit, and I'm like a diplomat extraordinaire, so shit, I'm worth billions to the tribe, worth infinity. They just try to bury me so they couldn't discover me, but the climb. But yeah, so this is what's going on right now. It's like I'm trying to connect back to the tribe wherever in the divine place that it is. And they're trying to put a bunch of like psyop niggas around me to look like me and whatever. So where it's like, in like the Spider-Man meme, it's like looking at everything now is so uncanny that it all relates to where, I pop up and I start talking, then somebody pops up and starts talking like me, or somebody pops up and starts antagonizing me just to take my credibility away in the public eye to where people don't know who's who, and it's like, no, he's the one, he's the clone, and then it just looks stupid, and it's just like, then the motherfucker get drained trying to argue with a wonky mirror version of himself, or like a some kind of. So I just seen some girls in the produce aisle when I turned the corner, and I just already knew they was walking with too much of a head of steam, and it was just like there's no positive that could come of this. I would have to perform some great feat of like niggadom in order to not have them say something halfway sassy, just to heal the ego that they, because I guess there's still like functions that aren't automated, but they perform within automated functions in order to earn their money. So some nigga got this whole shit orchestrated, and he's watching it on the eyes in the sky or the whatever, fucking infrared cameras or something. And if you think I'm just grandiose, you niggas need to learn about what's really going on in the world, or you just be thankful for your ignorance. But yeah, motherfuckers will be ready for you when you get there. And it's an interesting thought to be on the main stage, big stage, but then at the same time, it's like niggas is acting like you ain't shit. And I think that's the whole. But they treat you like you. But you still get treated like the most important person in the room. Is just not in a validating way. It's in a defamatory way, intentionally. And it's like the joke's on you for being so extraordinary, motherfucker. And they'll elephant to a stick you with chemicals, with words, with vehicles, with whatever to just Stockholm's you. And then, they'll keep baiting it like, do you want to join? Do you want to join? Do you want to join? And it's just like, I don't know, it was during the pandemic or at some point when I just disappeared, it was like everybody just sold out. People who I was friends with, that explains why we're no longer friends, because it's like they did change. They became crisis actors. They became like, and I don't know if it was like an ingestion of a substance or like just a pledge allegiance or, something, but I keep hearing people being like, he knows, and it's just like, damn, y'all motherfuckers is corny. But I don't know what I'm supposed to do about that, because they still want easy, you know what I mean? So it's like when I show up places and I'm just mild mannered trying to be Clark Kent, they always want Superman, but it's like, nigga, y'all ain't even giving me a comic book cover. What the fuck is you talking about? So it's a weird paradox where, they want me to perform for them so they could like gain light from it. Yeah, so sometimes I say things out loud, never emotionally, but just more so on some like, all right, I'm gonna have some fun too then. Shit, you niggas can't think for yourselves. Hit him with the wolf. But yeah. So I think that's where we're at in society right now. It's like rich motherfuckers paying poor-minded people to jump when they say jump in order to play the real live Sims game, war game, porno, director, barbecue, pork chop, word salad, balderdash, Monopoly, 90 Day Fiance, Desperate Housewife. The whole thing is like everything is like a super mall, strip mall. Like every form of media basically represents a store in a strip mall, and the strip mall is like the organism. So each individual component is like a way that it worships itself and acknowledges itself. You know what I mean? And it's like trying to indoctrinate everybody to that hive mind. Is like like that Rick and Morty episode where the chick with the arm heads, she just got everybody. She vomited on everybody, and then they all was her hive mind, and she would just like get Rick, and then he just slicing niggas and busting niggas and they shit, and all it is because that one person was just like the controlling the hive mind, and I'll be reflecting on who it is. I'll definitely think about one or two or three people who could all be one person. But this, of course, not knowing the true nature of this reality to be able to articulate it to a child, because within the maze, there's still maybe like 10% that I can't like pin down, even though I could metaphor it to death and put macrocosms in your face and show you examples and draw a diagram. There's still a piece that I can't account for that could be the vital piece as far as how many of these people actually around me are even real people. Because I've seen certain people in the past couple of days, weeks, that's like, they showed me their behind the mask face via the way that they address me, and I've seen the eternal in nature around me. So we're on the cusp, but I guess it's just one of those things of like, what's the purpose at this point? If it's basically this like sewn up, what's the purpose of trying to involve myself with anybody because it don't seem like everybody's on that team, and they're just only trying to hang out with you to either get their little bingo card fulfilled or um, gain sauce from you on how to be you. Try to figure out how to be you without necessarily giving you the opportunity to be who you're supposed to be. So it's an interesting situation. I mean, luckily I love myself and I'm dope, and I'll be like, my 3-pointer is coming back, so I got things to do. But all this like peer pressure to like validate a woman by giving her the child that would allow her to control me in the scheme of society is, once you know, you can't unknow. So it's just once again, it's cult shit. And I think about anybody who I try to contact from the past, and then when she, like, all my homies in the past was all on the program back then and at that time, and I was like the Indian, the native that they all had an assignment to, like, which would explain the weird resentment because it's like they know something about me that I don't know. So then it makes them kind of treat me like I'm dumb because I don't know, and they want to talk over your head and have these things that represent you. It's like inside jokes, you know what I mean? And from parentals to friends to cousins to assigned, girlfriends and all this stuff. It's just like the whole thing was just like it's like, shit. What was the point of that? It's like they're trying to have patient, like, that whole Stranger Things, like the whole patient zero. They're trying to see how psychic can patient zero get before dying, and then motherfucker just, well, we got to start over. Well, we got this one over here in New Hampshire that we've been working with for blah blah blah, and because I was a voracious reader and these things, and in school they started back then. It was like, yep, watch him. Because I seen that video about the gifted and talented program, whatever. But so yeah, it's like it makes sense why people just was hating so hard, and I didn't get it. It's like, oh, they must have known. It was like, oh, he's on that program, and then they're like, who does he think he is? And then it becomes this whole behemoth of people clicking up, and then they was like, well, we could probably monetize that. We could pay these people to be the villains, or I mean, they would be the heroes in the public side because of the way this narrative is skewed. But we could pay these people to be, the Mortal Kombat ladder for this person's ascension. And then we could just study them, and then everything that they fume off of them, we could try to monetize that and then make that into what we feed the public. Because it's been tested on a real one. So that explains why all these rappers is like mini me's and shit, because it's like I came up through the ranks and through the pranks, and then my yoga from those moments became the idiosyncrasies that they then put in an action figure and give you blank. Here's blank, the new version of blank. That was me in my blue phase. That was me in my, and they keep watching to try to. So it's like they want me to put music out, but they don't want to pay. But they gotta pay me what they owe me for the last 5 niggas that I put on, as far as helping them get over with my sauce. You know what I mean? And it's just it's a very interesting situation. Like, I'm making the best music I ever made, but I'm like the most shadow banned, and then I know niggas is thirsty because I hear them talking to me, like trying to trick me or trying to make me put out just all my shit. I'm trying to find the balance of it, but it's just one of those things. Like, even the niggas that's telling you that that's the way to go, they be thieving. So I'm always make music. I'm just trying to figure out how to proceed. But the ancestors is with me. I know that, so we're gonna see what happens. Cause I know I'm looking at the niggas in the trees, and I know they're not the same as these busters that I'm seeing in the grocery store. because it don't feel the same. It feels more like duh than so I'm gonna continue to look towards that, and we're gonna see what develops. But you know what I mean. Oh yeah, part two to the piece of the. So yeah, it's just like everybody's been like. I feel like everybody basically. The reason that everything seems so surreal and absurd is because everybody, for the most part, is on some kind of contract that obligates them to perform a certain way, which would then explain the Freudian slips, which would then explain the depravity behavior of like having to, like passive aggressive outbursts because you can't deviate from the script, but you like the confinement of the psyche is gonna naturally have slippages because it's like you're trying to hold a pose for so long, but your natural state is more holistic, organic, whatever. So it's just unnatural to be doing that shit all the time. So people are gonna have those vent steam outburst moments where shit gets hectic, chaotic. Somebody gets shot. Somebody like, you know what I mean, gets whooped. You know, all this other shit that's unaccounted for, and it's because all these people are lying, but they need money, so they say, so they have to acquiesce. Whatever they got on them, they got motherfuckers. All the people that's been brought over here. It makes sense now because now they're doing the travel. They're closing borders and certain things where it's like now you're here and we got you. Now you gotta like they're on the program, a different version of the program, which is like yeah, if you want sanctuary and this and that, you gonna have to treat this nigga like you gonna have to treat this native like a nigga when he sees you. You know what I mean? And just all that type of stuff. It's like yeah, you can't go back now, so you better do what we say. And it's just like damn. I'm looking at my own people looking at me like, yeah, I gotta do it, man, sorry. And then, with a smile on their face, like basically saying, kill yourself. And it's just like, damn. This shit crazy. Because it's like the pandemic, before the pandemic, people was talking shit. But I was lit. We was outside. It didn't matter. I had my peoples with me, even if they were spying and they were like double agents, I was still lit. Having a good time, moving around, mobile, getting on the mic, rock song, rap song, whatever, ladies, good time, driving around. Pandemic hit. After the pandemic, go back outside, it's tumbleweeds, and it's just old white ladies, old Anglo-Saxon ladies in the grocery store, and one person with a clipboard, and it's like, damn, one by one, they started reloading all the archetypes, and they just started putting different chips in these motherfuckers with different mods to where they're all more subservient to the main agenda because everybody was having their own methodologies. There wasn't as many crisis actors in your face. Now it's like that's a culture. That's the culture is crisis actor because it's like America's almost just like a Chuck E. Cheese, Disneyland, and if you go to like Egypt or something like that, those are real people probably having real conversations, like sitting looking at the dust, or just majesty. But out here, it's like, man, you better not be sitting down, nigga. Get your ass up and produce something. Even if it's redundant, do it. You know what I mean? We can't have you pondering or whatever. I don't know. But it's like you gotta break through it because I feel like there's always gonna be a pressure when you get into the outer reaches of the realms of intelligence and whatever, and just grasping concepts. Then they'll throw a school bus of kids that just all got snide remarks to just jump out and just start yelling shit, anything to trigger you, to get you off that thought path. Because on the other side of we about to kill your ass, you better do what we tell you to do and go pick up a jackhammer. Right after that, I think there's like a clarity that comes. So it's kind of like an Archon thing or some kind of like Sonic the Hedgehog when you're underwater and there's bubbles running out, you can't get to the next bubble and you think, and then it builds up pressure. Some people just can't deal with that whatever they do, like shoot up, roll up, whatever, bust one, slap somebody. But that pressure just build up, and you know what I mean. People figuring out. I think to the degree that you figure out how to deal with that moment, determines like the ascension of you, because it's a personal battle, but it utilizes every voice you ever heard and every nemesis or archetype in somewhat of a puppeteer fashion to try to put you back in a box that you were previously in, I guess. So it's all just unboxing like Christmas, unboxing like New James, unboxing like now that's my ex. I don't know. But yeah, it's if you can't beat them, join them. They made that shit a business model. So they just beat on you until you join, pretty much. And motherfuckers, I guess, a lot of people's families get them early, and then other people that make it out, they either get knocked off or they join up when the money run dry, or somebody catch them slipping at the party, or a bitch give them some kind of thing yang, and next thing you know, it's like, fuck it, I'm gonna just join this gang, I get some kind of satisfaction. But sheesh. So it just occurred to me, I'm gonna just face it. It just occurred to me that the way that people are all sectioned and portioned into hives is based on the language that they adhere to. And then the other video I was talking about how people, when they come to America, they have to sit maybe in a library and have this woman basically indoctrinate them into what a chair is and a table and how do you say strawberry and all of this stuff. So once those things are installed, that triggers the body to form around those consonants and vowel sounds in order to, as like an operating system that then vibrationally, depending on how it's delivered to, can enhance it, but it puts them in a specific code and mind frame and behavior pattern, and to the degree that they can exercise that, they are tested, and that determines their access points within a grander scheme of cultural manipulation in order to play out the hierarchical, game, race game, whatever. I'm using these people for this purpose. I'm using these people to guard this building facility. I'm using these people as trolls. I'm using these people as hunters. I'm using these people, and it's like everybody's playing war games or like Cowboys and Indians or Space Jam, or is playing out in so many different iterations, and a lot of people are just selected for their, I wouldn't want to say willingness or inability to conceive of, but it's just whatever their proclivity to be guided without question, friction, whatever. Like dogs, kinda. It's like Freudian slips of society that let us know, the Stooges, they've been, planting seeds, you know what I mean? And it's just like over the course of time, they get stronger with their techniques of subversion. But yeah, I don't, once again, they say it's not a good or a bad thing, it just is what it is. But, once you're high enough on the mountain to look at it, then you get to make the decision on what part you play in it. And sometimes the role that you are convicted to play is the main character, based on the amount of friction that you receive, which is, the hero's journey is that much more arduous, which means the final part of the script is that much more Oscar award winning or potentially tragic. So a lot of people just choose the supporting roles because it's a guaranteed check versus, seeking what your motivation is and having to really get methodical, which would be the main actor. And you have to wake up to yourself in the movie. There's like you're in the movie, and then at a certain point you watched your own movie for the first X amount of time, and then it's like now you have the controls, depending on what happens, that shocks you into, pun intended, no pun intended, into first person from all that indoctrination that happened to you fresh out the pussy, But yeah, it's an interesting situation. I don't, figuring out who's who and why are they acting the way that they're acting, and it's like, am I supposed to kill them? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that that's just humor, but it's almost like people want you to just do what you want to do just so they could be like, damn, he did it. But then when you do it, it's like there's still that fine line of like, woo, life in prison. You know what I mean? And it's just like, holy shit, nikes. So obviously that's the paradox. Or like, go ahead, talk to her, go ahead. And then some niggas fuck around and be like, oh, well, the voice in my head told me to. And she's like, no. And he's like, what? And by that time, blue, rape. Or, like all these schizophrenic, quote unquote, thoughts that people are having. To me, that would even be the next level of the wealthy motherfuckers being able to beam thoughts in people's heads. Just because it's like, I'm so rich, I'm gonna play the game of life and death with people. Because all of these motherfuckers are my slaves. That's how, Baal and certain people looking at people just like, you fucking slaves, you fucking dogs, you fucking peasants, you roaches, and they're just like, oh, just as long as I can have the milk and honey, they'll put up with it. So in varying degrees it's happening and degradation is playing out, but it's just, as long as you sell it properly and make it seem like a subculture or like a counterculture, motherfuckers will jump right in. You give them some nice clothes and next thing you know, it's niggas and hoes. And I don't mean that in the racial sense that is acknowledged, which is a device in itself, but I mean, dueling factions can be created easily by putting a title and a mission statement, however vague, and some lore around it of why it's good for you and your future. And then you got people going to war back and forth, and you just get to observe it. And they're basically like how the fallen angels came to people and gave them supposedly gave them, but that's supposed to be us, but it's like they gave them all the technologies and techniques to like be autonomous. It's like the same thing, but it's like the people that are doing it now are having fun with it in some trading places type of way of just or the Inky and the little one wants to use them as fuel, the other one, like Prometheus, wants to hand them the actual empowerment. So it's just playing out over and over again. But the ones that's trying to be Promethean are like heavily monitored from birth, based on proclivities and likelihoods that are carefully calculated from the teachers and the test scores and all that. And then they're almost curtailed into certain things where it's like, well, we'll give them the extreme sports, but we're going to keep that as like private viewing because that's, that nigga would change the world, she would change the world, so we can't, so you got to work your way through. I don't know where the end point is or what it is, but it's very interesting.